The dollar bill, used daily by millions of Americans, yet seldom really looked at. Are we aware that almost daily we see the only combined expression of the philosophies, aspirations, and actions that led to the creation of this nation? Where did these symbols come from? Why has the reverse or pyramid side never been made into a die? What do these symbols mean? And how did they find their way to the back of the dollar bill? For answers, we must go back to the Revolution and to the foundings of the United States. Back to the Continental Congress, assembled in Philadelphia in 1776, to July 4th and the signing of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Before adjourning that day, Congress appointed a committee to design a seal to complete the evidence of the independence of the United States. Congress appointed Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson, three major contributors to the Declaration, whom they charged with translating the vision of the founders into tangible symbols. The committee brought in a consultant artist. This first sketch has several elements used in the final design: the Eye of Providence in a radiant triangle, the shield, and the motto E Pluribus Unum, out of many, one. Franklin's design for the reverse side showed Pharaoh pursuing Moses and the children of Israel through the Red Sea and the light of divine presence. The motto, Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. This first committee established the context for the seal as allegorical, and the design as having two sides. Congress received the report from this first committee, but tabled it. The war and its problems were more pressing. Washington is recruiting soldiers for his army. The dark days of the war at Valley Forge test the very fiber of the new nation. In 1780, the report was resurrected and referred to a new committee. They chose Francis Hopkinson as a consultant. He had designed the first flag. He submitted this suggested design, which also was not adopted by Congress. But for the first time, we see the title, The Great Seal of the United States. In October 1781, Cornwallis surrendered at Yorktown, and the war was over. Congress could get on with the business of the new nation. Within 3 months, in January of 1782, a third seal committee was appointed. Their consultant, William Barton, played an important role. His second design shows for the first time in the seal process the pyramid appearing with the Eye of Providence. Barton's design also had a shield with stripes, and we see the eagle for the first time. The dove of peace and the soldier later translate into an olive branch and arrows. Barton's designs were taken by Congress. Congress then turned over the designs from all three committees to Charles Thomson, Secretary of Congress for 7 years, the person who took minutes of all meetings during the Revolution, a man knowledgeable in the beliefs and intentions of the founders. In only 7 days, Thomson synthesized all the designs, changed the mottos, and presented Congress with the design they adopted. From the second committee he took the stars and clouds, the arrows and olive branch. From Barton he took the eagle, the motto E Pluribus Unum from the first, and the shield from all three. The Eye of Providence in radiant triangle from the first committee, and the eye on top of the pyramid from the third. Being a teacher of Latin, he came up with the mottos Annuit Coeptus and Novus Ordo Seclorum, which he got from Virgil. The cycle of great ages has begun anew. His design for the front, shown here, and the pyramid reverse were adopted by Congress on June 20th, 1782, as the Great Seal of the United States. This description of the meanings of the symbols was accepted by Congress. The stripes represent the 13 states, joined in one solid compact supporting a chief, which is in blue, which unites the whole and represents Congress. The motto, E Pluribus Unum, alludes to this union, the states and Congress. The constellation denotes a new state taking its place and rank among other sovereign powers. The colors of the stripes and the chief are those of the flag of the United States of America. White signifies purity and innocence. Red, hardiness and valor. Blue signifies vigilance and perseverance and justice. The olive branch and arrows denote the power of peace and war, which is exclusively vested in Congress. The shield is borne on the breast of an American eagle, without any other support, to denote that the United States of America ought to rely on its own virtue. On the reverse side, the unfinished pyramid signifies strength and duration. The eye over it and the motto Annuit Coeptis, meaning he favors the undertaking, alludes to the many signal interpositions of Providence in favor of the American cause. The date underneath, 1776, is that of the Declaration of Independence, and the words under it, Novus Ordo Seclorum, signify the beginning of the new American era, the new order of the ages, which commences from that date. The die and the seal, first impressed on a treaty for the exchange of prisoners with the British. Only the eagle side is used, and the pyramid and eye go into obscurity. It wasn't until the centennial celebration, 100 years later, that a medal was struck which used both sides of the seal for the first time. Renewed interest in completing the seal caused Congress on July 7, 1884, to pass a law appropriating $1,000 to have dies cut of the obverse and reverse sides of the seal. Now, a conspiracy unfolds. The design was turned over to the Department of State under Theodore Dwight, who brought in James Horton Whitehouse, chief designer for Tiffany & Company, to submit designs for the new seal. Dwight also sought services from a group led by Justin Windsor and Eliot Norton of Harvard, who were extremely critical of the founder's designs. Norton states,
"It is greatly to be regretted that the device adopted in 1782 is of so elaborate and allegorical a character. The most skillful treatment of it could not make it satisfactory as the design for the seal of a great nation. It is little better than a very complex totem. As to the reverse, the device adopted by Congress is practically incapable of effective treatment. It can hardly look otherwise than a dull emblem of a Masonic fraternity." Justin Windsor added, "The reverse is both unintelligible and commonplace. If it can be kept in the dark, as it seems to have been kept, why not keep it so?" And kept in the dark it was. These men plotted to prevent the reverse side from being made into a die in direct violation of the law of 1884. As a result, a die of the front of the seal was made, but the country was still without a complete seal.
I've been having some hard traveling, I thought.
50 years later, in 1934, Henry Wallace, then Secretary of Agriculture for Franklin Roosevelt, saw a picture of the reverse of the Great Seal for the first time and brought it to FDR. Wallace later described what happened. Roosevelt, as he looked at the colored reproduction of the seal, was first struck with the representation of the all-seeing eye, a Masonic representation of the great architect of the universe. Next, he was impressed with the idea that the foundation for the new order of the ages had been laid in 1776, but that it would be completed only under the eye of the great architect. Roosevelt, like myself, was a 32nd-degree Mason. He suggested that the seal be put on the dollar bill and took the matter up with the Secretary of the Treasury, Morgenthau. In 1934, the $1 bill, a silver certificate, had on its reverse side this design. When the first draft came back, the eagle was on the left of the bill, as is heraldic practice. Roosevelt insisted that the order be reversed so that the phrase, "the Great Seal," would be under the pyramid. For the second time since its adoption, the pyramid side comes out from obscurity and is released to the public on the dollar bill. However, in its official form for use by the President, the seal remains to this day half finished. The die has not been cut of the pyramid side. The Great Seal is in the custody of the keeper of the seal in the Department of State. Historically, it was used on many types of domestic and international documents. In recent years, with a few exceptions, it is fixed only to documents that serve a purpose in international affairs. If we look more deeply at the beliefs of the founders, perhaps we can understand the importance of these symbols for us today. Many of the revolutionaries came from a tradition of mystical fraternity, the most visible being Washington and Franklin, who were high-degree Masons. Masonry was more than an organization. It was a spiritual discipline which infused their thinking and was a central part of their lives. Here we see Washington, as well as others, in Masonic aprons, laying the cornerstone of the Capitol. This was done in the 13th year of this nation. With the persistent use of the number 13 elsewhere, it would be hard to assume any of this is coincidence. The seal has 13 each of stripes, stars, arrows, leaves, olives, steps in the pyramid, letters in Annuit, Coeptus, and E pluribus unum. So we ask, what does Masonry say about 13, and find that the 13th degree has as its keystone a constitution which is the embodiment of the Temple of Liberty. 13 is the symbol of death and rebirth, or transformation in many esoteric, religious, and spiritual systems. As a nation, we have reminders of our heritage in buildings, statues, and in the words of our founders. Do we still have our founders' deep belief in a divine purpose or destiny for this nation? Can we have any understanding of how radical their beliefs would be even today in many nations of the world? Can we sense how important it is for the world that this American dream of ours works? Today, another revolution is in progress. This one is happening within individuals in this society. These personal transformations will shape the future destiny of this nation, as did the personal transformations of the founders. The results of these individual revolutions will cause this nation to evaluate its institutions, its priorities, its very structure. In the process, it is important to touch our basic beliefs, those truths we hold self-evident, and to remember how fragile such freedoms can be, and how responsible each individual is for maintaining them. In the words of Thomas Paine, "The cause of America is in great measure the cause of all mankind. We have it in our power to begin the world again." The celebration of the bicentennial of the Great Seal gives us an opportunity to share our vision with each other and the world.